I trusted my in-laws with the emergency fund I'd built over years. Said it would be safer with them while we traveled. When we returned, the account was empty. Your brother needed a fresh start, her mom said. My wife said, we'll build it back. I just stared at the statement, the withdrawals, the dates. That weekend. I'm Eric. 41, live in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been married to Tessa for 9 years. We don't have kids. I work construction, been at the same company since I was 22. I'm the type who sticks to what works. I don't take dumb risks. I save money, plan ahead, try to live smart. For the last decade, I'd been building an emergency fund. Every year I added more bonuses, side work, tax returns. I didn't touch it. I didn't even like to talk about it. That money was my safety net. It wasn't for vacations, it wasn't for fun. It was in case something went wrong, job loss, medical issue, disaster. Something real. By last year, that account had over $87,000. I felt good about that. Like no matter what happened, we'd be okay. Then we planned a trip. First real vacation in a long time. 1 whole month, just me and Tessa driving up the West Coast, Oregon, California, Washington. Camping, sightseeing, just getting away from all the noise. A week before we left, I told Tessa I was worried about keeping the emergency fund in our regular account. I said maybe I should move it to a separate place just while we were gone. I was thinking fraud, identity theft, some freak hack. She said, why don't we just have my parents hold it? They're good with money and they'll make sure it's safe. I didn't love the idea. I paused. She noticed. What, she said. I don't know. It's just a lot of money. She rolled her eyes. You don't trust my parents? That pissed me off. I didn't want to fight before our trip. I gave in. I transferred the full amount to her parents' account. She texted them a screenshot. Her dad replied with a simple, got it. I should have listened to my gut right then. We went on our trip. It was fine. Not amazing. Honestly, things between us had been weird for months. She was always on her phone. I caught her texting her mom at 1 a.m. a few times, and when I asked why, she said, we're just talking about Dad. She's lonely. I let it go. When we got back home, I didn't even think about the money for the first few days. I unpacked, went back to work, caught up on bills. Then that Friday night, I asked Tessa to text her parents and have them transfer the money back. She said, sure, I'll check with Mom. Saturday morning, nothing. I asked again. She said, they're just waiting for a bank transfer to clear. Something about limits. Sunday afternoon, I pressed harder. Show me the account, I said. She hesitated. Then she opened her phone, pulled up their bank login. She had the password saved, and showed me. It hit me in the stomach. The account balance was under $2,000. I scrolled. Dozens of withdrawals. Big ones. $30,000 one day. $15,000 2 days later. $20,000 the following week. Then a series of smaller ones. Cash withdrawals. Wire transfers. I just stood there staring. What is this? Tessa didn't speak. Just sat on the edge of the bed like a kid caught stealing. I kept scrolling. That's when I saw it. One $50,000 wire transfer went to someone named D. Brenner. Derek. Her brother. Her screw-up brother. Derek's the guy who dropped out of college, burned bridges at every job he ever had, and still asked Tessa for money like it was his right. He'd been couch surfing, then living in a truck, then moving to Florida to start over. I turned to her. You gave him my savings? She flinched. It wasn't like that. My mom, she said he needed help. She thought this could be his second chance. And you said nothing? She started crying. Quiet little sobs. I didn't know what to do, she whispered. She said it was only temporary. That once he got the business going, he'd pay it back. What business? I snapped. She didn't answer. The next day, I went straight to her parents' house. Didn't even call. Her mom opened the door like nothing was wrong. I held up the statement and asked, where's my money? She said, calm as hell. Your brother-in-law needed a fresh start. You stole from me. She shook her head like I was being dramatic. You asked us to hold it. We thought helping family was the best way to honor that. I almost lost it. But I didn't yell. I just left. Back home, I opened up my old budgeting spreadsheet. The one I used before we merged our finances. I went line by line. Everything I paid for. Everything I saved. Over the last 9 years, I had paid almost 80% of our bills. Mortgage, utilities, groceries. She barely contributed. That night, I told her I was meeting a friend from work. I drove to a hotel instead and checked in under my middle name. I needed space. I needed to think. She called me 10 times. I didn't answer. The next morning, she texted, "I know you're hurt, but we'll rebuild. Together." I stared at that message for a long time. She didn't get it. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an accident. They made a choice. A group decision. Her mom. Her brother. They all decided my money was their solution. They didn't even ask. And I wasn't sure if I'd ever forgive that. I stayed in that hotel for 3 nights. Didn't tell anyone where I was. I needed time to think. But the truth was I wasn't thinking clearly. I kept going over the same facts in my head like a broken record. They took my money. They lied to my face. And now they wanted me to get over it. On the 3rd night, I finally answered one of Tessa's calls. I didn't say hello. I just listened. She was crying again. "I don't want this to be how we end," she said. "Please come home." I didn't respond. She said I talked to Derek. He promised he'll start paying it back. He just needs time. He already found a place in Tampa. He's meeting with some guys about a startup. I hung up. A startup. The man couldn't even hold down a job at a car wash. The next morning, I checked our joint bank account. Tessa had moved $4,000 out of it. No explanation. I called the bank. She'd transferred it to her personal savings account the day before. I texted her. "Why did you move money out?" No reply for 6 hours. Then, I needed to pay a few things. I didn't think it would be a problem. That was it. That was the final switch inside me flipping off. This wasn't just about the $87,000 anymore. This was about trust, respect, and every little red flag I'd ignored over the years. I called a lawyer. His name was Alan Pruitt. Friend of a friend. Straight shooter. I told him everything about the fund, the transfer, the withdrawals. He asked one question that stuck in my head. "Was the account in your name alone?" It was. Tessa had access to the info, but it was mine. Opened before we got married. Never touched by her, not even once, until I made the mistake of moving it to her parents' account. Alan said, "That matters." He told me I had a shot at civil recovery. Maybe criminal too if I pushed it. But it would get messy. Family always makes it messy. I said, "Let it get messy." By the end of the week, I had separation papers ready. I moved the rest of our shared money into a new checking account under just my name. Alan handled the notices. I changed all my passwords, took my name off the mortgage, stopped the autopay on her car loan. That was in my name too. She never qualified on her own. Of course, she never knew that. When she got served, she showed up at my job site. Walked right into the lot like she was there to bring me lunch. I stepped away from the crew and she started yelling before I could say a word. "You're ruining everything. You're seriously divorcing me over money." "No," I said. "I'm divorcing you over betrayal." She looked around like she couldn't believe I was saying this in public. "You're punishing me for something my mom did. You let her. You helped her. You knew. And then you lied." She just stood there. Didn't deny it. Didn't even look sorry. A week later, her mom texted me. First time she reached out directly since I walked out of her house. "We should talk. This isn't what your father-in-law would have wanted." I replied with 2 words, "Lawyer only." Then I blocked her. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Tessa filed her own petition, wanted half of everything. Claimed emotional distress. Claimed she supported the household emotionally while I worked. I gave Alan the green light to dig deep. He found a trail. Venmo payments from Tessa to Derek. Regular ones. Going back over 2 years. $300 here, $500 there. Notes like car stuff and food. Even a few that just said, "Heart suit." I asked Alan, "Is that what I think it is?" He didn't say yes. He didn't have to. I went back through her phone records. The nights she stayed up late, talking to her mom. She'd been calling Derek. Multiple times. For long stretches. My stomach turned. I didn't want to believe it. But the dots lined up too neatly. Tessa wasn't just helping her brother. She was hiding something. I asked Alan, "Can we subpoena her messages?" He said yes. And we did. 3 days later, he called me. I need you to come in. I drove to his office and sat down across from him. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were printouts of texts between Tessa and Derek. Hundreds of them. Some were vague. Some were flat-out disgusting. Not brother-sister. Not even close. I felt like I was going to be sick. I asked, how far does this go? Alan said, I don't know. But we have enough to make a case. And to make this divorce turn in your favor fast. I walked out of that office in a daze. I wasn't just dealing with a stolen fund anymore. I was dealing with something so much worse. And now I knew exactly what kind of people I was up against. The next few weeks felt like I was living in some twisted dream. I'd wake up, look at the ceiling, and ask myself the same question every morning. What the hell happened to my life? Tessa moved back in with her mom. Or maybe she never left. I didn't care anymore. But I couldn't stop thinking about those texts. I only saw a fraction, and even that was enough to make my skin crawl. Some were flirty. Some crossed the line. Others were downright sick. She told Derek she missed his warmth, and that no one understands me like you do. One message even said, sometimes I wish we weren't blood. I couldn't say it out loud. Not yet. But in the back of my mind, a thought started to grow like mold in a corner. Something had happened between them. Maybe it started when they were younger. Maybe it was emotional at first. But it had crossed a line. I didn't know how far it went, but I knew it was real. And I knew her mom had to have known too. Alan kept pushing. He filed a motion to get her devices, laptop, old phones, everything. The court granted it. While that was in motion, I got another message. This time from an unknown number. No name. Just a message, you don't know what you're starting. Walk away. I stared at it for a while. Thought it was Derek at first. But it didn't sound like him. I showed it to Alan. He said we should treat it as a threat. I went to the cops and filed a report. They didn't seem too concerned until I told them I was pursuing a civil and criminal case against a family that had misused over 87 grand and possibly committed incest. That got their attention. A detective followed up 2 days later. Asked for a timeline. I gave him everything. Dates, texts, transactions. I gave him the list of accounts and the wire to Derek. Then something strange happened. 2 days later, Derek's Florida business address suddenly changed. The LLC he set up dissolved. He filed a new one under a fake-sounding name, Shorebound Consulting, and a different address. I dug deeper. It wasn't even in his name anymore. It was in Tessa's. That's when I realized they were still moving money. Hiding it. Maybe laundering it. Trying to stash what they took so I couldn't get it back. That same week, my lawyer got a tip through a mutual contact. Tessa had been bragging to one of her old college friends in a private Facebook group. Said the divorce would be profitable either way and that Eric has no idea how easy he was to play. She said she didn't regret the money. Only that I found out. She called me a safe bet. A safe bet. I wanted to throw my phone through the wall. I called Alan that night and said, I don't just want the money back. I want to bury them. He said, then let's go full throttle. We added fraud to the case. Conspiracy to defraud. Civil theft. We opened a claim with the Florida Department of Financial Services to flag Derek's activities. And the real kicker? We reached out to the IRS. Tessa never reported the money she transferred to her personal account. Neither did Derek. They thought they were clever, but they forgot how easy it is to trip tax alarms when you move that kind of cash. Meanwhile, my neighbor Jake, a guy who worked nights, came to me one day with a strange look on his face. Hey man, he said. You expecting someone? No. Why? There's been this dark gray Toyota parked across the street the last few nights. Doesn't leave until you do. At first, I thought he was being paranoid. Then I spotted it myself. Same car. Same time. Just idling. Alan told me to report it. I did. Cops said they'd look into it. The next day, I found a dead cat on my front porch. I don't own a cat. No blood. Just placed there. Like a warning. Like I was getting too close to something I wasn't supposed to know. So now I was dealing with a wife who betrayed me, a brother-in-law, who may have done more than just steal money, laundering, tax fraud, and someone watching my house. I bought cameras the next day. Top-end ones. Covered every angle. Sent live feeds to my phone. Set up alerts. I also took time off work. I needed to be ready for whatever came next. Then one night, about a week later, the cameras pinged me at 2:11 a.m. Movement in the backyard. I pulled up the feed. A figure, hoodie up, pacing near the fence line. I called the cops. By the time they arrived, the guy was gone. But he left something behind. A gas can, tucked behind my shed. And next to it, a single matchbook. From a bar in Tampa. One I knew for a fact Derek had checked into on Facebook 2 months ago. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't just about the money anymore. They were trying to scare me into dropping the case. Trying to make me walk away. Tessa, Derek, maybe even her mother. But they had no idea who they were messing with. They thought I was quiet, passive, someone they could walk over. They didn't know I was just getting started. After the gas can incident, something changed in me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was calm, cold, focused. I stopped thinking of them as people. I started seeing them as problems. And problems can be solved. I worked with Alan daily. We collected everything: texts, emails, financial documents, social media posts. I backed up the camera footage. The police report about the gas can. The message from the unknown number. Meanwhile, Alan sent subpoenas to the banks involved in the wire transfers. Then we went to court. Tessa tried to paint herself as clueless. Said her mom and Derek manipulated her. Claimed she was pressured and emotionally vulnerable. She told the judge I was cold and controlling, and that I cared more about money than marriage. But the messages said otherwise. We had screenshots of her bragging about what she did, saying she'd clean him out and move on, laughing with Derek about how I bought it all. There was even a message where she said, "He's so careful with that account. It'll feel extra good to drain it." That killed her entire defense. In the courtroom, she broke. Started crying. Her mom just sat there, stone-faced, arms crossed. Derek didn't even show. A warrant had already gone out for him in Florida. IRS fraud and tax evasion. He ran. That's when the twist came. The detective assigned to the case called me after one of the court hearings. He said they looked into Derek's records and found something strange. His birth certificate. The father listed? Not the man who raised him. Not Tessa's dad. Some guy from Missouri. Name was Marvin Tate. Did time for drug trafficking. When they asked Tessa's mom about it, she folded. Derek wasn't Tessa's full brother. He was her half-brother. From an affair. Tessa never knew. Until a few years ago. She and Derek got close after their dad died. Too close. The messages made more sense after that. So did the money. They were planning to start a life together in Florida. They just needed my savings to fund it. Her mother helped because she was protecting her secret. Derek was the mistake she tried to hide her whole life. The plan had been in motion for over a year. I felt sick when I heard it. Sick that I'd been living with this woman. Paying bills. Building a future. All while she was playing me like a damn fool. But she underestimated me. The judge ruled in my favor on every count. Full divorce granted. She got nothing. Not the house. Not the car. Not a cent. She was ordered to pay restitution. Over $91,000 including damages and legal fees. Her mother was charged with fraud and conspiracy. Derek was arrested in Pensacola trying to buy a boat with a fake ID. He's facing federal charges now. And the IRS froze both their accounts. Tessa had to move back in with her mom, who was now awaiting trial. No car, no job, no money. And me? I sold the house. Bought a smaller place outside of Omaha. Quiet, clean, close to my job. I started fresh. But I wasn't done. One day, about 3 months after the final court ruling, I sent Tessa a certified letter. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It was a copy of her text to Derek. He'll never see it coming. At the bottom, I wrote, "Neither did you." She never replied. Last I heard, she tried to get a job at a design firm but couldn't pass the background check. Word travels fast in Lincoln. And Derek? He's still in jail. Might be for a long time. Do I feel bad? A little. Not for them. But for myself. For not seeing it sooner. For trusting people who didn't deserve it. For ignoring the small signs. But I learned something. When people show you who they are, listen. And if they take everything you built, make sure they choke on it when it burns.